Hi, hello, welcome back. My name is Kim. This is Kim Reads and Reviews, and today I'm going to be going over all my favorite books that I had read this year. This is one of my favorite times on BookTube. I love listening to people just absolutely gush about their favorite books. That's exactly what I'm going to do today. I'm going to very briefly just flash on the screen all the books that I had read from each genre as I go over them, and then from those books I will be selecting which ones I think are kind of like my favorite, any honorable mentions, and just any kind of overview of the genre and my reading experience with it in general from this year. So I'll start with thrillers. The thriller genre in general this year was extremely underwhelming. I would say it had a lot of lows more than highs. I didn't give out a 5-star to any of them. But there is one book in here that kind of stands out to me as not only the highest rated thriller that I read this year, but also as far as memorable regarding plot, what the book is about, the characters within it, how it all played out, the pacing. I found it very, very much enjoyable, and I still think about it at the end of the year. And I had read it, when did I read it? January, so quite a while ago, and I'm still thinking about it, and it still stands out to me as one of my favorites from this year, and that is Never Saw Me Coming by Vera Kurian. Okay, so within this one, we follow Chloe, and she is a formally diagnosed psychopath. And she gets accepted into this university, and her tuition is paid for, like everything is good, upon the condition that she takes part in a study where there are various other psychopaths attending this school as well. They don't technically know each other or know of each other, but they just all know that they're going to have to take part in this study if they want to attend this school. The study tracks things like via smartwatches, things like their moods and movements in exchange for free tuition. One day, one of the participants, the program participants, is found murdered. So it becomes very clear to Chloe and the other psychopaths in the program that none of them are safe. It seems like somebody is trying to pick each of them off one by one. And so Chloe takes it upon herself to try and figure out what the heck is going on. But not only that, like that's one thing, but our main character, Chloe, has her own little side quest going on. She is looking for revenge. I very much enjoyed this book a lot. You follow the perspectives of the psychopaths. It's Chloe, and then there is one other character that she follows along with, and then somebody who is pretending to be a psychopath to get that free tuition. And I think that that character who is pretending to be a psychopath so he can get free tuition, like when his perspective is shared, he really, I think, represents what society thinks psychopaths are and how scared people are of them. And then of course you follow along with Chloe and this other character and their perspective with their mind and their thinking, and it is just so fascinating. The author herself has a PhD in social psychology, and so a lot of what her writing, as far as like the testing and the research and what the psychopathy kind of looks like and what it actually is versus what people think it is accurate and true. So I very, very much enjoyed following along with this kind of concept. I thought it was such a ride. And honestly, I absolutely loved following along with Chloe. She has this like white hot rage, very dark humor, and like a I'm not afraid of them, they should be more afraid of me kind of mindset and attitude. It's very much like you root for her throughout this entire book, and she's probably one of my favorite female characters I have ever read, honestly. So moving on to literary fiction, arguably my best genre I read this year and highest rated genre as well. There are so many excellent books here that I had read. I have fond memories with each of them. I took something from all of these. Excellent writing, great stories, impactful, emotional, all the things I kind of look for. So some of these books that I consider to be my favorites may be difficult to recommend because of its content or its triggers, whatever the case may be. And so I'll also be kind of selecting books that I would confidently recommend. So again, keeping in mind that recommendability factor, it's pretty easy to eliminate some of these, specifically books like Young Mungo. I loved the writing, but very difficult to recommend. However, because I have just such wonderful experiences with a lot of these books that I read, it's really hard for me to pick a favorite from this bunch, honestly. Lily King, I really dove into her writing this year. I just found that her books found me at like the perfect time in my life. I think she's rapidly becoming one of my favorite authors so far. Tin Man I had read most recently, and I'm really trying to not let recency effect take a part in my decision making, but this was just so well done. Like I can't deny it, like even without recency effect. I love the themes in it, the beautiful writing. I loved it so much I did a whole video talking about it. So if you'd like to know my in-depth thoughts and summary of everything, please go watch that because I feel like I've just raved about it so much. It's hard to pick one book from this genre, so I'm going to pick a few. One of them being Tin Man, and then the other one I think being Father of the Rain by Lily King. Oh man, this was just such a beautiful book in and of itself. Daly's character arc is unlike anything I have read. It really just struck a chord with me. This book, the writing was excellent. The characters were just so well built and very fleshed out. I'll link the video below where I kind of summarized, where I think it was a wrap up where I talked about this book. So do go watch that. I'm pretty sure it's timestamped in there, so you can just click it and see my thoughts and my rating that I gave to it, but it's just so beautiful. Okay, so the next genre is going to be romance. I was looking at my 2022 stats for my romances and I read none last year. So 2023, I had just a massive increase in my reading in it. I very much enjoyed it. I kind of figured out what I like in romances, what I don't really like. I read my first Abby Jimenez and Emily Henry. Emily Henry was surprisingly underwhelming. The romance standouts for me for the year is You Again and Life's Too Short. You again might be because of that recency effect, but I just so enjoyed it so much, and in pairing with watching When Harry Met Sally, it was just so good. But the one book that I continue to think about over and over again is Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez. I just very much enjoyed this one. We follow along with a character who falls for somebody who is like the complete opposite of her, or well, they're the complete opposite of each other, but they really balance each other out in a really positive way. She is potentially suffering from a condition that can shorten her life dramatically, hence the title, and so she very much lives her life kind of with that in the back of her mind continuously. She always kind of is like, oh, just eat the cake, do the thing, you know? I think this was like a romance that found me just at like the perfect time in my life. I think Abby Jimenez does an excellent job at writing her characters, writing her stories, getting the reader really invested in the romance. You hear from both love interests, which I absolutely love in romances. It really helps me get invested in what's going on. Her writing is just excellent. I think that her characters and the issues that get presented in the books are very mature in their nature. It's very real. It's very not surface level. It has depth. I think that, you know, it's real things that real people deal with, and so there are people out there who could potentially relate with her romances quite a bit and what the characters go through. Okay, moving on to horror with Comfort Me with Apples. That's hard to recommend. It's very polarizing. I'm seeing the reactions. I personally really enjoyed this quite a bit. It's a very short, brief little thing. However, Brother by Anya Alborn is, I think, easily my favorite horror book I read this year. Within this one, the setting is the Appalachia area, and we're following along with the Morrow family, and Michael Morrow specifically. Him and his family, they have a very unique hobby, we'll call it. He helps his family pursue this hobby, and it's literally all he knows. He meets a girl at a record store, and he decides that he's kind of interested in pursuing this other life and maybe pursuing her and seeing what else is out there for him. However, his family still requires him to help them pursue this hobby. The thing that I liked the most about this book, honestly, is that it's not graphically horrific. Like, you know what's going on without needing the in-depth and horrific descriptions. It's very uncomfortable. It's dripping in this ominous tone. The readability of it is very good. Like, it's very tense. It's a dark, dark read. And also, by far, Michael's character arc. Oh my god, the ending of this book was just... I don't want to say anything else about it because I just want people to read it, but it's so good. So next I'll talk about nonfiction. It's tough for me to pick a nonfiction. I would recommend all of these, you know, like they all had an impact in some way on me, and I very much enjoyed all of them. I really enjoyed Simulou's audiobook, his narration of it. A Year in the Woods was really great as well. They Called Me Number One. I think if you're Canadian, reading anything on residential schools and survivors' recounts of it is necessary reading. And Crying in H Mart, of course, that's a very popular one. They're all just so excellent, honestly. It's hard for me to pick one. I would say go read them all. I think nonfiction is great in the sense where no matter what you read in nonfiction, like I think you can get something from it for yourself. I think I have yet to read a nonfiction book that I just didn't enjoy. Knock on wood for me. Okay, so the last two genres that I read from, both of them being dystopian and fantasy, they were my lowest read genre this year. Dystopian, I read one book, and that was The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. Excellent audiobooks, literally only like 2.5 hours long, I think. If you have an afternoon where you're just kind of putzing around, cleaning and doing whatever, I definitely recommend reading it. It was very suspenseful. And then fantasy, I only read 2 books. I finished off the Broken Earth series by N.K. Jemisin, and then I read the Book Eaters. Book Eaters I did not really enjoy, so I'm not going to talk about that very much, but the Stone Sky was the 3rd and final book in the Broken Earth series, and I finished that up, and that was excellent. I would recommend that series to anybody, really. It was the very first fantasy series that I read and completed. I loved it so much I bought it. It's sitting right there on my shelf. I made my partner read it. He read the whole series. He very much enjoyed it as well. Loved the concept, loved what it said and everything it represented as well. The world building and the originating powers that these characters have are so well explained. But that first book, there's nothing holds a candle to that. So that is my favorites from each genre that I have read from this year. I had an excellent reading year. I read 61 books. My goal every year for me with reading is just 1 book a week, so 52 books. And I'm very happy with my reading this year. I had a lot of reading highlights. I dove into romance. I dove into literary fiction. Literary fiction really scared me for a long time, and it's less intimidating to me now. Thanks so much for hanging out for a little bit and listening to me absolutely rave about all my favorite books this year. I hope you found a couple to add to your TBR. Let me know if there were any books that we had in common as far as favorites and highlights and things like that. But thanks so much again for hanging out for a little bit, and I hope you all are enjoying what you're reading and have a really great day.